as we develop a mindfulness practice, or even if we aren't necessarily developing a mindfulness practice, but want to live in the world with ourselves and with other people in a softer way. Softness isn't something that's typically taught to us. In fact, it's usually taught out of us. As kids, sometimes we're told not to cry when we're upset about something, or to not feel certain ways. Especially for men, it can be a particularly harsh lesson to learn, to be taught to not feel emotions or express certain emotions. But developing a tenderness toward ourselves is actually key to being able to begin to interact in the world with more tenderness as well. And when I say tenderness, I don't mean like being a pushover or, compromising yourself in some way that you feel like is out of alignment with your values. But what I mean is bringing a sense of compassion to our experience and forgiveness. So today I really want to talk about the forgiveness piece. The beginning of this year, I did a workshop. Actually, it was the end of last year. I did a workshop about moving into the new year with an intention of accepting ourselves just as we are. Often we move into the new year with a list of ways in which we haven't measured up over the past and ways we need to change. But I wanted to shift that to, how about instead of us changing and feeling like we're deficient in some way, that we just accept ourselves how we are, with all the flaws, with whatever it is that we're experiencing right now in our life, with whatever mistakes we have made. And that is definitely not something we're normally allowed, right? We're usually encouraged, either in subtle ways or in direct ways, to not accept our flaws, to be a certain way, live up to a certain standard, look a certain way, act a certain way. And oftentimes that is completely counter to our own who we really are at our core. And there are two particular practices that we can work with to develop these two things. But forgiveness is a very important piece of being able to move into acceptance of ourselves. Because when we begin to say to ourselves, okay, you know what, I don't like the way I've been treating myself, this isn't who I am, and I'm not going to treat you like that anymore. There is a sense of distrust that we have in ourselves, right? When we begin to try to shift back to embracing ourselves. So we may notice like a deep internal conversation that is like, yeah, I don't believe you. You can even sort of feel our bodies, if we're really tuned in to the subtleties in our bodies, can feel our bodies resisting it. And so working with a forgiveness practice can be really helpful in moving into a sense of trust with ourselves so that we can begin to open the compassion to ourselves and move into a place of really embracing. And forgiveness, there's a misconception about forgiveness and I'm talking about it in the sense of directing it toward ourselves, not toward others. But certainly, our greater culture, there is this sense that forgiveness is about other people. Like, we forgive you, and then we need them to understand we forgive them, and it's about this external sort of exchange. But forgiveness is really for ourselves, whether it's toward another person or toward ourselves. It's a way of releasing us from an idea or an attachment to how things should be, how they should have been, or how I should feel about them, or how this relationship should be. We often, when it comes to other people, can forgive without them even knowing. Because it doesn't matter if they know. Sometimes people don't even understand when you tell them you forgive them for something, because Often they don't even know that they crossed a line or hurt you in some way. But when it comes to forgiveness of ourselves, it's not often something that we're really taught or even think about, Like, how do I forgive myself? I mean, I haven't, shot myself literally or done some kind of physical harm to myself. But in all of the rejections and in all of the ways we don't allow ourselves to be who we really are at our core, in all the ways that we are changing ourselves to fit a standard, to fit a norm, these are all little rejections that we can turn toward and begin to forgive. So we can begin to accept who we really are under that, understand where all of that came from, and not putting blame in the mix, right? Blame does absolutely no good in the whole process. So when we begin to sit in mindfulness like this, and when I say mindfulness on the cushion, I mean we are beginning to come into our bodies and listen. And that's all it's about. There's often a misconception that meditation is about emptying the mind. And there are meditations that are that way. There's a lot of different ways to meditate. But mindfulness meditation is about becoming an observer to our experience. And that's it. It's not about stopping anything. It's not about changing anything. It's just about seeing what's happening in any particular moment so we can get to know our internal experience. It's only through getting to know this internal experience that we can really start to understand ourselves and start to learn how, when I do this, I feel this, I don't like it. Why don't I like it? Because it's really not who I feel like I am, right? Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because of maybe giving me a status that I want, or because for my whole life I was told this about myself, or, I thought that going on this path in life would make me happy. I don't feel so happy right now. So how do we get to these sorts of insights from mindfulness meditation? It takes some time. When we're first doing it, it's not like usually we don't just sit down and discover everything about ourselves. That's why it's called a practice, because we do it on a regular basis to build the relationship with ourselves. Again, sometimes we have to work past a sense of mistrust that we have with ourselves because we've been abandoning that ourselves for so long. So we're sitting down in a formal way like this, and we're listening. In listening, we establish an anchor in the body, and the anchor in the body is usually some kind of sensation that we're aware of. So, it can be just how it feels to sit on the cushion. It could be how the hands feel in our laps. It could be how the floor feels beneath our feet. It could be the sense of our breath. Often, when we begin mindfulness meditation, we begin with awareness of the breath because it's there. We can control it, but it's involuntary as well. There are many paths along the breath that we can kind of rest our awareness in. So this is typically where we begin. We begin by getting to know the sensations around the anchor. Now, of course, the trick is we're not going to stay there because our minds, our brains are designed to work. They're designed to think. They're designed to do all the things that brains do that sometimes drive us crazy because we can't stop. So when we leave the anchor, we notice it and we bring ourselves back to the anchor. And this is where mindfulness can teach us what free will really is, right? Because we aren't automatically engaging in the habitual action. We're noticing it. It happens, right? It happens because that's what we're used to doing for so many years. So we notice that we're doing it and we come back. We leave and we come back. We leave and we come back. And that's the practice of mindfulness. Leaving and coming back. Leaving and coming back. It's that. Because the leaving is automatic. It's conditioned response. It's habit, right? It's the coming back is the conscious choice of how we're going to be with that experience. And then the resting in the awareness in the body is, again, the conscious choice of how we're going to respond to that experience. And we can apply this to forgiveness. When we notice we're beating ourselves up over something, we can step back and say, wow, I'm really being hard on myself right now. And we can sense how that feels in our body. How do I feel right now when I'm beating myself up over this? I feel small. My chest feels constricted. I'm having a hard time breathing. I'm reacting outwardly to the people around me. And then, can I be with this for 5 seconds? For 5 more seconds? For 5 more seconds? And just see what the experience is like in the body, without attaching the thoughts to it, without getting caught in the story of whatever triggered it, but getting to know the body sensations of the experience. It can be really, really powerful when we can be with it, because one, we notice, we have the capacity to be with it, which we often think we don't have, which is why we run away from it, right? Distract ourselves and push it away. And two, we notice that we can change how we respond to it. So we don't have to be caught up in this whole feeling of lack of control in the emotion and the experience and the sensory feelings. So we just notice it. Can I be with it? What does it feel like? What do I need? And that what do I need part is the compassion. We're turning it back on ourselves, asking ourselves what we need in this moment so we can actually give it to ourselves. So we're going to actually walk through a forgiveness practice. I just realized I forgot to bring it. I'm going to forgive myself for that mistake. But I think I can remember it by heart. And this is really a practice that we can cultivate. Because forgiveness, just like compassion, just like love, just like these other sort of what they call heart practices, can be cultivated. We can plant the seed and we can water it. And it gives us the power to really, become that in ourselves, which we want. So it's bringing intention to our lives. Again, giving ourselves actual free will, rather than just assuming we have it. Most of the time we don't. We don't. We think we do, but we don't. We're not acting like we do. And this is really a practice that we can do anytime. We can cultivate it on the cushion. We can do it in the moment if we are able to begin to pause and notice when we're getting caught up, when we're notice that we're being harsh with ourselves, when we're, punishing ourselves for no reason, really. So let's go ahead and do a sit. You just want to be stable in your seat, at ease, with your back straight, but not straining any muscles. And if you feel, at any time that you could benefit from some back support, you're welcome to move to the chairs. We're going to begin with our eyes closed. And you can also have your eyes slightly open with a slight soft gaze about 2 feet in front of you. We'll begin by taking in 3 deep inhales and exhales at your own pace. And then you're welcome to have your breath come into its natural rhythm without straining, without forcing or controlling the breath. Just beginning to notice how your body feels in this moment. We'll begin by doing a body scan just to get connected to our bodies and bring us into the present moment. So we'll gather our awareness to the top of our heads. Noticing the feeling of the room or feeling of the hair on the top of your head. And slowly begin to bring the awareness down over the forehead, the eyes, the nose, cheeks, the mouth, and settling for just a moment in the jaw area. And just notice if you're holding any tension here. If you notice you're clenching or grinding your teeth. And if so, just loosen that, just let it go. And then moving down into the neck and the shoulders, and same thing here. Just notice if you're tensing these muscles, if you're holding your shoulders tight, if your throat feels tight. And if so, just letting it loosen. Sometimes angling the head down a little bit can help those muscles loosen as well. And continue moving down into the chest, through the back and torso. Noticing if there's any tensing, any constriction or contracting in the muscles. Coming down into the hips. Moving down through the legs, over the knees, down into the feet. And we'll just pause at the feet, sensing the feeling of the feet on the cushion. Perhaps you notice the pressure of the feet between your legs and the floor. Just breathe into this in a natural rhythm, into the sensations around the feet. Notice how the pressure feels. You're beginning to notice any tingling in the feet. If there's a temperature, whatever sensations you can notice, Just let them arise in your awareness. Allow this to be the anchor in the body. You can settle into the present moment in this very anchor. Without judgment, without needing it to be any particular way. Just noticing. Just noticing. You may notice from time to time that something takes you away from the anchor. Typically it's thoughts. It could be other feelings, sounds. Whatever it is, just notice it's there. Perhaps give it a label, something neutral, like thinking, pleasant, unpleasant. Acknowledging it's there, and not grabbing on to the story of it. And then just let it go, bringing your awareness back to your anchor without judgment, and settling back. Just noticing. Where are you now? You may also notice that feelings can emerge as you continue to notice when you leave and when you come back. And same with the thoughts. If they arise, just notice them. Give them a neutral label. Perhaps frustration, anxiety, boredom, whatever it may be, just a neutral label without judgment. And then bring yourself back to the awareness of your feet. I'm going to lead you through a guided forgiveness meditation. And I'll give you some lines that begin with "May I." And I'll pause after each line, give you the space to repeat those lines silently to yourself. There are many ways that I have hurt or harmed myself. I've betrayed or abandoned myself many times through thought, word, or deed, knowingly or unknowingly. May I forgive myself. May I allow myself to be imperfect. May I allow myself to make mistakes. May I allow myself to be a learner, still learning life's lessons. For the ways that I have hurt myself through action or inaction, out of fear, pain, or confusion, I now extend a full and heartful forgiveness. I forgive you. I forgive you. And if I cannot forgive myself now, may I forgive myself sometime in the future. Allow yourself to take in a deep breath and a deep exhale. Settling further into the anchor. Just allowing yourself to rest in the awareness of this anchor. Just noticing. May I allow myself to be imperfect. May I allow myself to make mistakes. May I allow myself to be a learner, still learning life's lessons. May I forgive myself. And if I cannot forgive myself now, may I forgive myself sometime in the future. Just noticing the experience in the body. Bringing ourselves back to the anchor when we notice we've left. In the final moments of this meditation, I invite you, if it feels right for you, to place your hand on your chest over your heart. Notice the warmth shared between the palm of your hand and your chest. Notice how this gesture of compassion feels in your body. And offer yourself gratitude. Gratitude for getting up early on a Saturday, for committing to listen to yourself, for committing to grow, to making yourself a priority. Close out this meditation, this poem called Love After Love by Derek Walcott. The time will come when with elation you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, "Sit here, eat." You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit. Feast on your life. ready, you're welcome to open your eyes and come back into the room.